Okay, here we are. We got started and gonna get our recording going. Well, hello, Sherry. Good morning, Maria and Alexandra, Alicia, Amber, Anna Lori, Carrie, Catherine. Wow, I'm so glad everyone came. Thank you so much. We have a lot to talk about. So let's get started. All right, so the last time we spoke was at the end of November, and November has been very interesting. A lot was preparing us to get ready for solstice. And so I want to talk to you about what happened after that, because of course it's not boring. So after November and us talking right before Thanksgiving, we had our little Thanksgiving holiday here. And then what began to occur was an awareness of the revving up of energy coming from solstice. And solstice is simply an alignment, a planetary alignment that creates openings. And so there's openings everywhere, but this one's really special. Solstices are very special. Equinoxes are special. They have this alignment with the sun and the moon that's unique. And it creates a lot of power, kind of like magnets. When you put magnets in a certain alignment, they create a lot of electromagnetic energy. And that's exactly what happens during solstice and equinox. So here, this was revving up. Coming into December, we could all feel it. And if we were in any kind of resistance around it, it would be very uncomfortable. And that's one of those clues about resistance is discomfort, and especially physical discomfort. It can be very painful to be in a very intense energy and then end up in this alignment. And if we have any resistance, even subconscious, it'll create a lot of physical pain. So that's something that we can all be conscious of and aware of. Now, here this was getting going, and all these different timelines are very obviously spread out. We have all these timelines where humanity works everything out and we get to our goals, and all these timelines where we don't. And this is what's interesting, because as a seer, I can see all those sort of timelines, if you'd like to say. It's more like an ocean of time. And it's all true. It's all perfect. That's something interesting about the future that we all ought to consider regularly when we're worrying about the future. There's all these timelines where everything works out and where they don't, and they're all true. They're all perfect. They are all in existence. It's in the moment where all the action is, where all your power is, that we can decide to move into a different position each and every moment, choosing the timelines that we want. And so, although I teach literally that there aren't timelines, it's a good term to use when we're thinking about choices and linear time. So here's this convergence of all these timelines was happening. Well, things started getting real weird at my house. And so I was wondering, where am I spiritually? I'm in this different place than I normally am. And here in November, there's this big, massive spiritual breakthrough for myself, going through the satanic ritual abuse energies, merging with it, coming out the other side, a lot more free, a lot more pure, a lot more me, right? A lot more my soul. Of course, we're all souls in these bodies. Not really, Elizabeth. Not really these bodies, but our souls. And so being my true soul self, being able to be that more easily without the karmic energetic debt lingering over my head and constantly bombarding me with that dense, dark stuff that I've been down in that rabbit hole for so long, and being able to come out of it now, I entered into a space that was unfamiliar. So this happens when we have big spiritual breakthroughs. You're going to get some kind of response. And it's not always a beautiful, awesome, lovely response. Sometimes it's pushback because we've made room for the next layer of dark to be addressed. And this is what happened. So here I'm in this weird space and I couldn't figure out what it was, and it felt very strange. And then one afternoon I'm sitting meditating and an eighth dimensional being comes to visit me. So I've seen them before, and they look, for me, they look like these beings that are very formless, and they look almost like sacred geometric beings of light, but it's not as structured or material as a lot of other beings can be. And in 8D, there really isn't any structure exactly. It's all the energetics all at once. So beings from that dimension, they don't have any concept of not understanding each other. They don't have any concept of conflict. So good and evil is not a concept that they have. And it's very interesting to be around a being like that, because it's something that I too really want to be able to do. I want to be able to embody the whole and be one with the whole. And that requires so much universal compassion, which we were talking about in November and also in September. And so if you go back to our circle calls in November, October, and September, you'll see what I'm talking about, this process of finding universal compassion by merging with layers of dark and fear. And then you find these gifts, these virtuous, beautiful attributes of light beyond each layer of dense darkness. So here I'm interacting with this being, and at first it doesn't look really beautiful, right? It's very interesting. So I'm kind of irritated by it because it doesn't look beautiful to me. And so I shoo it away. Go on, get out of my field. I'm busy meditating, right? And I don't know who this being is. I don't trust this being. So I've learned the hard way not to trust everything you see, because you can be deceived by what you see. And so I'm learning still to use my heart to feel energy and make better discerning decisions through seeing, feeling, and knowing. In the meantime, I'm busy meditating, and I tell this being to leave, and it doesn't leave. So I put my attention on it, and I say, who are you? What do you want from me? And there's nothing wrong with that. So this being doesn't look beautiful to me, but I don't have any judgment or fear of it. So to let me know that it has good intent, it actually pointed out, it touched me right underneath my left breast is a big tumor. This tumor is there from a previous demonic attack that I had about a decade ago. In my total pure arrogance at that time, I had interactions with a demonic entity, and I had invited it in my field by being so arrogant that I thought I could have conversations with demons. Don't do that. And so this thing had attacked me and almost killed me. And my teacher, Lucia, actually saved my life. Well, I have the repercussion of that still on my body with this big tumor on my rib cage. It missed my heart, thank goodness. But the damage is there, right? So I have this tumor, and the being pointed at the tumor and said, "I'm very sorry that happened to you." The being was mirroring compassion. Mirroring. It knew that compassion is very important to me. By just being around me, there's no separation in that dimension. So the being says, "You have been hurt. I have compassion for you. I know that compassion is important to you because it's simply in my presence. It doesn't need to read my mind. It's merged with me from that dimensional position. So that gave me a clue. All right, I'm okay with speaking to this being. It's got compassion, which is unique. This being doesn't have an emotional body. It can't feel things like we do. It can perceive frequencies like we do. And so it could see that's really important in her field. This is the kind of being that, immediately knows all of my history. I can't be deceiving to it because it's in oneness with me and everything else. So it knew to point that out. And it was very unusual. That's never happened to me before. I've never had a being do that in order to connect with me in that deep way. So this occurred, and it got my attention, and I said, okay, I'm interested in to hear what you want to say to me. You came for a reason. I'm all ears. And so it begins to show me some aspects of what the nature of the solstice this time was going to be. And I want to get into that a little later, and I will in depth, but I'm going to skip what happened with this being, because right afterwards is, again, what we can expect when we have a big breakthrough or a learning or another layer of light come in. So here this being gives me this very precious information, and I'm incredibly grateful forever for this information about the masculine and the feminine. And so then it leaves the field, it disappears, but I still feel very strange. Like I'm not quite in a normal dimension. So I'm kind of hanging out with it, but it gets weirder and weirder. What do I mean by that? Well, it feels very dense. It was troubling. There was a lot of movement in the field that I couldn't see or perceive very well. I felt like this tugging, this undertow energy, and I felt fear. So fear is always a clue that you ought to pay very close attention to what's going on. So I'm very attentive, and I'm continuing to hang out in this, but it's getting weirder. And now I'm starting to see all these beings that look like shadows, and they have these really bright blue and white eyes. And I'd never seen any beings quite like this. They didn't look like demons exactly. They didn't feel bad or good. They just were there. But there was a lot of them, and more and more and more start piling into my field. Again, we have a big breakthrough, then the next challenge comes to meet you, even within hours. Always expect the next challenge to come and meet you. This is the power of mysticism, to know that that's going to occur. Then we can always be in preparedness for our continued spiritual growth, because that's the whole point. That's the point why these challenges show up, why these breakthroughs happen, and then something crazy will happen right afterwards. So had this beautiful breakthrough, and minutes later, I'm already in the challenge. So several hours pass, these beings start crowding me, many hundreds of them, these shadow-like beings with these bright, bright, vivid eyes. And so I call my friend, because I'm real confused. I'm not afraid, but I'm really confused. Like, who are these beings? And I'm kind of reluctant to speak to them. I need somebody else's eyeballs on this, right? And this is good. This is important. We need this. We all do. I do. We all need help. We all need help to see stuff. It's very hard to see our own field, right? So here's all this energy. And so I call my friend and I'm like, where am I? Can you sense energetically where I'm at? Because I've got no idea where I'm at. And she's like, I don't know. It doesn't feel very good. It feels really creepy to me. I'm like, well, I don't feel creeped out. And so I'm hanging out on the phone with her. And I say, well, these beings, they want me to go into their consciousness. They're asking me to go into their consciousness through their eyes, right? So I'm not afraid. She's not happy about what's happening, but I choose not to listen to her, even though I'm on the phone with her and asked her for help. So I'm on the phone and I say, I'm going to go in. I'm going into this consciousness. I want to see what happens. And she's on the phone with me. I go into this consciousness. I end up in this other place. And suddenly all my identity is shattered. So there's Elizabeth, and then there's all these lifetimes that I've had as a soul. And then there's my soul. And on the phone, she's listening to me, and it's getting weirder and weirder. And I start to feel my ancient self, who was not a human, show up to try to take over. And my friend, she says, Elizabeth, I like the human part of you. I love the human part of you best. And this snapped me right out of it. So I took all my willpower to get back into my human self, to pull my identity back together, and to step out of this consciousness and this realm. And it took me 3 full days to get out of there. What had happened was my energetics had been shattered. And my friend says on the phone, the sum is greater than the parts. The sum of the whole is greater than all the parts. She kept saying this to me, and it was my lifeline. It pulled me out of this fractionating energetic, this sort of shattering of my reality of myself, because the whole soul and all its experiences in oneness with source, that is true. Not each separate shattered part of our lives, or each separate shattered trauma or joy. That's not true. Those small pieces or big pieces in our lives or lifetimes over a soul's experience, each one of those doesn't give the big picture of the truth of that soul's journey. How do we know that? Many of us have had lifetimes that were incredibly dark so that we could learn about that side of a polarity. And then we've had lifetimes that brought all that into balance so we could learn what light is all about. You can't understand light without dark in this universe. It's all about relationship in this universe. And so in relationship, we find oneness. That's the path. We have a relationship with our body. We have a relationship with the people around us, the plants, the animals, the dimensions, the universe, source, each other, other souls. And all of it is one. All of it is one. But you can't attain that state of oneness and enlightenment if you don't understand that every single part, including every dark piece, has to be included in the whole for oneness to occur. This is the challenge. So here's one of my greatest fears: to be shattered. To be shattered so I can't pull myself back together, and then I lose myself. I lose my consciousness. That's my fear, right? And so with all my willpower, I had to pull myself out of this. It took me 3 days, and then I was just toast. When this kind of stuff happens, I end up in bed, and all of you have experienced this stuff. When we go through big major shifts, we end up laid out because our bodies go through an immense amount of energy and power and all kinds of changes. This is so important to treat our embodiment really well so that we can be able to heal during major changes and events like this, right? Okay, so this occurs, and finally I'm healed up enough, and I call my teacher, I call my friend, we get on the phone, we start looking at this, and I said, you know, I realized that I go through experiences, especially right before big events, in order to be able to then share with you about what has happened. Because it's not mine, it's not personal, it's universal. It belongs to you. This information belongs to you. And so that's why we go through these things. as mystics, we go through these different kinds of layers of dark. We discover the light. We come out of it in order to then share what we've learned and share that light. And so this is yours. So we're looking at this together on behalf of the collective, and we notice this giant undertow of energy. And my teacher says, you got sucked into that. That's what you got sucked into, the undertow. And the undertow is like a meat grinder. It's like a meat grinder that shatters your identity. It shatters all of your stuff. It shatters who you are. It was not pleasant. It was not pleasant. And it made me afraid. And that to me is always so important. Fear is my signpost. It says, go down this road, because this is the next challenge for you to advance your soul. So I feel this sense of terror when I'm experiencing this undertow together in meditation with my teacher and my friend. And we realize, this is the solstice. There's the undertow, but then there's the wave, this wave of golden consciousness. And who's going to get sucked in the undertow and who's going to ride the wave of consciousness? It's another sorting, an energetic sorting that happens regularly. And unless we continue to work on that dense ego stuff and our trauma, we're too dense to be able to easily come out of the undertow, right? And it takes a lot of incredibly powerful spiritual will to pull yourself out of it. It can be done, obviously, but to what degree can everyone do that? It just depends. So for me, it took me, like I said, 3 whole days of constant full body awareness, no sleep, pulling myself out of this undertow. It took every ounce of pure will I have. And I've got a strong will. And so do you. Now, all of this occurs, and then we come into solstice. Solstice always feels like giant magnets to me, which is why I use that original metaphor, and I can feel it pulling on me. It's really quite cool. And so I'm sitting in this energetic and feeling the pull of solstice come on, and suddenly it's like this big giant door opens, and all night long into the next day, beings were leaving this planet. Beings from underneath the earth, under in the mantle, beings from all different dimensions, ghosts. They were streaming off the planet like these beautiful streamlets moving, and then with very great joy leaving the planet, leaving the embodiment of the earth, lightening up the consciousness of the earth. Many of these beings I'd never seen before. And I happened to have a stream of them moving through my bedroom. And ever since solstice, I've had some still trickling through, especially at nighttime, when the veil is very thin. I'll be laying in bed and they'll move through my room, and I'll be like, go on, go ahead. I know where you're going. So I didn't stop them. I didn't resist what was happening. I just let all these beings move through my house as they needed to. And I could see very clearly many, many beings moving off the planet. So an immense lightening of consciousness. And then there's, this double energetic. There's that beautiful wave that they could ride and move off the planet. But then there's this undertow sort of meat grinder energy. And who's going to end up going through that? Well, it just depends. A lot of folks are checking out right now because their embodiments are painful, because their lives are finished in these bodies. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. What is good about it is that all these highly intelligent souls who've helped pave the way for us to keep going forward to the golden age, they're going to leave the bodies, and then they're going to come back into these new bodies refreshed with much nicer embodiments, not so full of trauma, if all of us do our work correctly and help the collective. that leads me to the next step about why the masculine and feminine piece is so important at the moment, and how you personally can help end the undertow and allow consciousness to ride this wave up into a higher state. We call this ascension, right? But it's very literal and it's very physical too. It's including all dimensions, including the 3D. And those big changes, those massive changes that occur within you, have more of a dramatic effect than ever before. So what is the job at the moment? The job at the moment is to merge with your greatest fear. I just told you my greatest fear was to be shattered. And I've seen it happen to others. And those folks end up possessed, or they end up in a terrible situation they can't get out of. And the shattering, to me, that makes me afraid. So by merging with that fear and saying, this is my greatest fear, it's my greatest personal fear. By merging with that fear, with that heavy, dense fear, I then can free myself, but I free also the collective. This is how immensely important the coming online of the next dimensions is. 8, 9 is online. 8th dimension, and 9th dimension is online now. It's so subtle, you can barely sense it. But now, with the 9th dimension of Christ consciousness mercy, the entrance of the divine feminine 10th dimension is being welcomed. And these two work in tandem, and we will ride that power of the healing of the 9th and the 10th dimensions, Christ consciousness mercy of divine masculine, and the powerful unconditional love of the 10th dimensional divine feminine will be the doorways to the golden age. And the golden age is humanity's relationship with the divine feminine and masculine being healed fully in order for us to work together, finally, to reconstruct this planet in harmony with Gaia and the universe, then leading us to earning our spot at the universal table and the galactic table to be able to be emissaries of universal compassion and unconditional love in this galaxy and others. This is the same, it hasn't changed, it is the goal. But this is the door. We have one big door fully open, and this next one is starting to open. And that's the divine feminine and the masculine working together to open into this next part. Every single one of us is being asked to merge with our greatest fear. What is your greatest fear? Really ask yourself that over the next couple of weeks. We have a beautiful year coming ahead. 2020 is amazing. It's the year for everything we could hope for. Disclosure, all these things are possible, right? A million possibilities in front of us, all of them true, all of them real. Every single moment we get to keep choosing together what those possibilities will be in the moment. And so at this moment, I ask you, be willing to merge with your greatest fear. How do I know this is a general human piece that we have to look at? Because in sessions, with one-on-one or group sessions, I keep seeing the same thing for people, especially right before solstice. I did a whole bunch of sessions the day before solstice. Every single one of those people were being asked to merge with some great fear they had. And so when that happens, when it happens to me, I know it's not personal, right? It's collective, it's universal. But then I start seeing it with other people. That's how I know, okay, this is for humankind. It's for all of us. So How do you merge with your greatest fear? You got to feel it first. You got to name it, know it, feel it, find it in your body. Your body is merged nicely with your emotional body. Every single inch of it, your pinky's merged with your emotional body. Find the fear in the body and welcome it there. I welcome this fear in my heart. I welcome it in my knee. I welcome it in my face. I welcome this fear. You keep welcoming it. You merge with it by being it in your embodiment and by being able to be willing to experience it fully. And then it moves through. Then you merge with the fear and it loses its power over you. This is the undoing of the chains of the matrix. The undoing of the chains of the matrix is you merging with the chains, you merging with the fear, merging with the jail, merging with the walls and the guards and the terror. We merge with it, and then it ends its power over us. If humanity can keep doing this, that shift in you resonates like a ripple across time, space, across the collective, because we are all one, especially in these human bodies. We all come from the great root, DNA, energetic, the same place. We all come from the same place. We all have been in oneness the whole time. So every change you make, every merger you make, every chain you dissolve by merging with it, you end that for humanity too. And so one person's fear, even though it might sound the same as someone else's fear, it's going to be nuanced. It's going to be specific and very unique, because that soul has had its own history, and now it's in an embodiment that also has a special history, and the crisscross of those histories is incredibly unique. Now, then, of course, the fear for one person, perhaps fear of poverty, right? That's a very powerful fear. It's a fear we've been trained to literally do anything to avoid, poverty and death, you name it, right? So the fear for one person, although it might sound the same, it's going to be unique because of their experiences with it from a soul level and a personal level. So it's like saying, here's fear, and here's all the facets of this particular type of fear. And so one person's heals one facet, another heals another. And then soon enough, if everyone is on board, that particular fear gets shifted in the collective. And we begin to see then those changes percolate through dimensions into the 3D. So change takes some time to percolate through into then manifest in the physicality of our world. This is where the masculine feminine piece comes in. So what this 8D being showed me was so beautiful. One of the things that by looking at all this really dark stuff for so long, that I've realized and discovered with my teacher and my friend, we've been looking at it so deeply and for so long, we discovered that unconditional love from the Divine Mother, who maintains all that is. Divine Feminine is creation and destruction. And destruction is not the end of something, it's the reusing of something. It's the recreating of something. Nothing is ever truly destroyed in this universe. It's recreated, it's recycled. And that's a feminine attribute. The masculine is preservation and integration. And so with that in mind, we have the Divine Feminine, Divine Mother, and her heart opening to us, saying, children, it's time. It's time to be healed. It's time to be loved. There is nothing you can do or say that would stop me from loving you. And that is the doorway. That's that door opening to the 10th dimension. The Divine Masculine has been online for some time now with incredible mercy. And the Divine Masculine is surrendering to the divine feminine's open full heart, merging with her. So us women in these feminine bodies, as these very powerful conscious souls, our job is to open our hearts to all that is, all the darkness, all the light, and welcome it into our unconditional love. Through our embodiment, through our spirit, we open up our field with pure unconditional love and unbridled universal compassion that says, there is a place for you in this universe. You have a place here. No matter what is done or said, the divine feminine can open up our hearts, and then we bring in, we welcome in the masculine, the patriarchy, we welcome in every aspect of light and dark. Now the men have an equally powerful job here. And I want to tell you a little part of a dream that I had that will explain this. Long time ago, I had a dream that was my teacher's teacher came in this dream to teach me. And his name was Rama. I never met him in the flesh in this lifetime, but I knew how powerful he was because of this dream. I didn't even know who he was at all, really, when he came to me in this dream. It's one of the most profound things that have ever happened to me. In the dream, he showed me the divine feminine and the divine masculine and the massive rift between them, and how this has been caused by the patriarchy, hurting the men and the women. When we went to look at the divine masculine, all I saw were hillsides of men starving to death. And I was so disturbed. I asked Rama, what is going on? What is this? And he said, this is the state of the masculine. They are in existential starvation. You must feed them. And so I began to prepare a giant soup, and he said, build it and they'll come. So I built it, and I'm getting these bowls of food ready. It was all very metaphorical, spiritual food, right? Love, divine, unconditional love. So I'm, as a divine feminine representative, I'm going around trying to feed all of these starving men desperately. 1/3 of them said, too little, too late. Get out of my face. They didn't want anything to do with me. They were so angry at the divine feminine. The second third received and nourished, but they didn't interact, they didn't connect, and they didn't share. The last third of the men were the ones that saved them all. They were the men who received, who connected, and then they shared. Then they started to take bowls of this food and go around and start to feed their brothers. And that's when the masculine changed. That's when that 1/3 of men got out there and began to share the divine, universal, unconditional love that they had been given through the divine feminine, saying, there's nothing you could do or say that would stop me from loving you right now. I'm here and I want to feed you with my heart and my love. I will not turn away from you. I will not remain angry with you. I will merge with my anger. I will merge with my pain, and I'll be here for you. I'll be here for you to help you out of the patriarchy, for all of us, so we can all get out of it, because it's hurt men so much. And so then the men, they went out and they said that too. We're being invited into unconditional love. Come, let us share this. Let's share this together. 1/3 of the men went out there and they did that, and they saved the men. And I saw this wave of golden light move across the masculine and transform it. That was over 10 years ago that I had that dream. Now, this 8th dimensional being showed me this in a beautiful way. It showed me it in a very natural way. It said, here's the divine feminine absorbing the masculine, absorbing the masculine, and then they become one, and then they create something new. They create something new. Now, of course, we know how this works. It's called the birds and the bees, right? But this is a spiritual activity, not just a physical one. It is the opening of the total true heart of the self, the total true heart of the divine feminine mother in all of us. Men, you are included. And by welcoming the masculine so fully into the self, by welcoming both, we merge the two, and then is birthed something new. And this, of course, is how the golden age will be birthed. It will be birthed by all of us being willing to do this balancing and to welcome all into our hearts. And you men are so vitally important in this. I can't tell you how important you are. I just want you to know that I see you, I hear you, I know how important you are. And you women are literally the transformers of this earth. We are so beautiful, all of us in humanity. It's time to step up in this unconditional, loving way, to be welcomed into the heart of the mother, all of us, men and women alike, because we've all had masculine and feminine lives. And to be willing to watch that new creation be created between us and then nurtured. You see, the golden age is like a child that all of us are being asked to nurture. And it's not quite born yet. It's not quite born yet. 2020 is conception time. It's the merger of these two energies so that the new can be conceived. And that is what reconstruction is. That's what true reconstruction is, at a spiritual level on through to the physical. So the actions that you have right now in this next year, merging with your fears, being willing to fully welcome all into the heart space, to merge the masculine and feminine through unconditional love, to go home to the heart of the universe, and to be able to then function from there, soul to soul. We create, we merge together, we co-create, we collaborate. We have these lovely moments where we initiate these different kinds of co-creations, right? And then, of course, some of them are short, some of them are long, but we are all the temple. We are the temple. The collective is the temple from which the golden age will be nourished, nurtured, and taught to be the new humankind. That's what it looks like. You see, the gates of the 9th and 10th dimension, the masculine and feminine in their divine, pure energetics, act like a doorway, just like a womb, birthing this new human energetic that is free from the matrix, that is free from demonic oppression, that is free from the oppression of any other beings, whether physical or non-physical. And that is the next step. So here we are. And of course, wow, it's just so exciting to me. I'm so amazed and blessed by it. And I hope that you can feel that too. I just love to share this with you. Thank you so much. So this next solstice is going to be in June. And I'm going to do a week-long retreat in Ecuador, near where my teacher is, in Vilcabamba, Ecuador. So look for those emails, because I've already got it set up now. It's just a matter of sharing it with you. Let's meet together. Let's meet at the heart of of Gaia. Ecuador is the most diverse place in the whole world. It's where you can feel the divine feminine fully online there, and the divine masculine as well. And so during summer solstice, let's meet in June together in person. We're going to do our breakthroughs, we're going to do readings, we're going to do work together, and we're going to experience the next step of our solstice together. So we're going to be able to see it and understand it and then disseminate it to our communities from there. So I invite you to just notice that when it shows up. If you're signed up for my emails, come and just take a look at it, see if it resonates with you. I'll be sharing all of that very soon. So we'll have 6 months to prepare to be able to be together. But I'd love for all men, all women, all ages are invited, except for small little children. I think probably 18 and up would be most, they'd get the most out of it. Younger teens probably won't understand what's going on exactly, unless you have somebody that you think is right on the money, and you'd like to bring them, maybe your son or daughter. So from there, let's move together into what is this physicality of the merger of the divine feminine and masculine. What is that going to be like? What are the steps for us to work together? And how can women support men? How can men support women? How can we surrender to one another in pure unconditional love? Let's practice that. Let's do it. Let's do some seeing for each individual. Let's do group work. Let's get to work. So in June, let's prepare for that. That's the next alignment, right? That's the next big gateway. Equinox is always very cool, but solstices are special. Like I said, it's kind of like setting magnets up in a row. So we'll be looking forward to that. Now, next weekend, I'm going to be teaching a class called Creating and Maintaining Spiritual Power. This is important. It's stuff I'm going to teach you that I've learned from my teachers, that I've learned through some experiences that will be useful to you. And power is light and light is power. And I've learned a lot about power. And this is good for both men and women to understand their power, how the feminine has certain resonance of power, and so does the masculine. And in all of us is the full spectrum of that, and how to access it, how to understand light, how to make a lifestyle where you're gaining and maintaining light. That's mysticism for you. So next weekend on the 5th, I'll be teaching that class. I'd love for you to join me. All right, so I want to make sure I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. Yes. So for our pillar of light in a little while, because I like to take questions, of course. For our pillar of light in a little bit, I'd like to build a pillar of light near Gibraltar. So Gibraltar is this big, huge, giant rock that is at the end of Spain, and it's where the Mediterranean and Atlantic meet. And it turns out that Plato, long ago, Plato told everybody where Atlantis was. Everybody's looking all over the world for Atlantis. But Plato already told everybody where it was. He said it was just past Gibraltar. Turns out, underwater archaeologists just found a city just past Gibraltar that fits to the T. Exactly how Plato described Atlantis. So we found it. We found it. We found Atlantis. How cool is that? Let's build a pillar of light there. So today's pillar of light is going to be for 2020, for the unfolding and disclosure of all the most important technologies and information we need as a species to move forward. And of course, the healing and the merger and the cooperation of the masculine and feminine. So we'll build a pillar of light a little later at the Atlantean gateway of the Mediterranean and Atlantic, exactly where Plato said it would be. How cool is that? I'm so excited because I've always been like, where has it been? Where was Atlantis? Now, of course, like you, I do believe that there's been civilizations, for example, like in Antarctica. That's something that is one of those disclosure things that we're going to start to find out. And so, human history is getting rewritten all the time, and because it's very complex, it's much more ancient than they say. And so we're going to get to discover this stuff over the next several years. But I'm just so excited for what we're capable of and what we're going to do together and what we're going to find out and what we're going to have access to, what we're going to know. So now's my chance to help you, to serve you. And I'm going to take a look at our chat and our Q&A and different spots. And just so you're aware, I'll also look on YouTube too. I don't do personal readings for our public calls because, well, they're personal. And you really don't want me to do a personal reading on a public call anyway. But I invite you, come to my group calls. They're so profound. Oh my goodness. Yesterday, we had a group call with some men and women, and it was so beautiful and spot on, just beautiful work we were doing together. So if you need some extra help, that's a really great way for us to work together sooner than later. So I'm going to scan through my commentary here that I'm looking at. All right, so, and you'll just have to be patient while I read as fast as I can. Carolyn's wondering who was taking care of my children, or who takes care of the kids, who makes things happen. Oh, Carolyn, fortunately, my husband is here to help me, and my children are very smart and independent, thankfully. When I say I'm out for 3 days, that doesn't mean that I'm not doing chores or working. And if I have to reschedule things, unfortunately, that happens sometimes. I am privileged to be self-employed. But here's the deal. Let's keep cultivating cultures of compassion so that when things are going wrong or when we need downtime, that these are honored in a spiritual way. We have to cultivate that. We have to teach other people how to do that. We're going to have to recreate culture from the ground up. And that includes creating cultures of compassion in our businesses and our communities, so that if someone goes through a spiritual experience and they need some downtime, that we know that our neighbors, friends, family, and community will be there to support us. This is something we're going to have to cultivate. This is what the golden age is going to be about when it comes to, rolling up our sleeves and getting to work, right? That's part of the work. So I'm incredibly privileged to be able to not have to be super busy in all of this and try to constantly hover over the children. I'm very privileged to be able to lay down and rest if I need to. So I know this is not a privilege everybody has. And I don't have a perfect answer for you. The fact is that I'm really blessed to have my husband here at home. So when I say to him, I can't get out of bed today, he's able to take care of things. And that's an incredible blessing and privilege. So, normally when this would happen to me back when I did have a job and was a single mom even, this stuff kind of would happen to me all the time. And I'd be laid out, but I'd still have to get up. I had 3 jobs going full-time to master's school as a single mom. And I didn't have a choice. I'd have to get up. I'd have to push myself. And I found that I could, but then it would take me longer to heal. So over the years, trying to arrange my life in such a way that my spiritual progress can be honored in that way, that's a privilege. And I've worked very hard to do that, but we can't all, and we aren't in that position yet. We have to teach each other how to do this. We have to teach each other how to value spiritual growth and the downtime that it requires. Just like being sick requires downtime, when you go through a spiritual shift, your body needs to rest. So I do understand that this is not an easy thing for people to go through at all. And we push ourselves so hard, my goodness. But that's the rearranging of culture. It starts with us valuing that very deeply and then teaching other people how to value it through compassionate words, deeds, and thoughts. So it's a start. It's a start. Okay, so continuing to read through, sorry. So Sophia's wondering, can you share your opinion about practicing unconditional love versus respecting boundaries? Yeah, they're very, very different things. You can unconditionally love and also say, I need this space. This is what I require now in order for me to continue this effort. And so I need private time. I need space. I need a place to be. I need these different things, noticing what our needs are, and setting ourselves up for success by surrounding ourselves and people who respect that, right? So I'm so lucky. I have been able to have a partner who respects everything I ask for and every boundary I've created. And then I respect his too. And we learn from each other about those boundaries when we merge and when we don't. And so this is the thing, again, it's another one of these things that we're all going to have to learn together and teach each other about. We have to recreate this concept in a more compassionate, unconditionally loving way. This concept of boundaries, right? We got to do this together, men and women. We got to do it women to women, men to men, women and men. We have to recreate these concepts. Unconditional love is not something that you lose by asking for your needs and your desires to be respected. Unconditional love is more like the umbrella energy and the ground that you build everything on. So unconditional love and universal compassion is the foundation and the roof of our house. That is the new paradigm of the golden age. It's not the boundaries, the pillar of the boundaries here, or the pillar of understanding and valuing spiritual growth and all of these different things that are going to create our new house and create the structure of our house. The roof and the foundation are definitely their own thing. So the boundaries are going to be, this part of our house, this structure. We have to recreate it. We have to dismantle what we know about these things and start from scratch, no matter how old you are. We must start from scratch at this point. If we're going to use this brand new foundation and this amazing roof for our temple of humanity, we need to start from scratch. And so I encourage you to toss out what you have learned, what you know, what you think you know, and then sift through those pieces and say, these are some of the things I'm going to keep, like compassionate communication, like being able to mutually meet one another's needs and boundaries, like being able to act with unconditional love no matter what. So it's the recreation of personal culture from the inside out. Well, as much as I feared being shattered, I think I equally desire to be fresh, to have a different inner culture that can be based on this unconditional love and universal compassion. And from there, that culture then moving out into the rest of the world through my actions, deeds, and through my thoughts, right? So that's what I'm perceiving right now when it comes to these big challenges that are very real. Boundaries and these two things so far being brought up, boundaries and of course the importance of spiritual growth in our lives. So hopefully that's helpful to you. All right, so my friend says, upon waking on Christmas morning, I was aware of a clear message. Many children will experience harm and suffer because today is Christmas Day. I lay in stillness in spite of a full bladder, and I felt different sufferings and disappointments and violence of different types. Then I got up and in a few minutes sat again with the message and the feelings and did simple heart commands, and I continued to do so throughout the day. I found at some point my own inner child's pain and suffering, bringing in a wave of forgiveness and peace for myself and all those who experienced this clearing of darkness with a beautiful light of equanimity. Late in the day and during the days after, I saw news stories about children who died and people who died, and the energies I'd experienced and the heart commands in my own heart matched up. And indeed, I had returned to source. I've been in a physically uncomfortable cleanse of a significant cold, which is getting better, but my vibrant energy has not yet returned to balance. Listening to your story today is a comfort to me. The place that was so stunning to me in all of this was clearing the betrayal in the because of the message. It's particularly difficult to be hurt on a day we expect to be joyful. Releasing these energies was a huge manifestation of energy that's beyond good or bad, right or wrong, and to see it return simply and profoundly to the light. Oh, wow, what a wonderful experience. Thank you so much for sharing. I deeply value that. I hear you. It's so profound how, again, the inner self, the inner child, how much power they have to be able to help us heal and help us recreate our cultures that will value children and animals and the elderly, and of course, all those who are in positions of vulnerability first. If our cultures can value and protect those that are vulnerable first, then the rest of us will be okay. And that is a really powerful aspect of unconditional love and universal compassion. And of course, mercy being such a wonderful attribute. So thank you so much for sharing that. I deeply resonate with it. So Leah's asking, is there a certain exercise you use to embrace your greatest fear? Yes, so I walked through it earlier. It's finding it in the body. You got to find the fear in your body. You got to name the fear. I'm afraid of blank. And then you find it in your body. You fully feel it. You feel it. It's not going to be comfortable. You're going to feel it fully. You're going to welcome it then. I welcome this feeling of blank in my heart or whatever part of your body, right? And then you do it again and again and again until you start to feel it moving past or through or beyond you. The fear will lessen and lessen and lessen as you merge with each layer of difficult, painful fear. That's how you know then that you've merged. It's that simple. It's not easy. It's just simple. It is painful. It's uncomfortable. Your brain's going to fight you. Your whole body might fight you. Don't resist it. Resistance will cause more pain. I welcome this resistance. I welcome this pain. You keep finding it in the body and you keep welcoming it there. I'm going to, in the replay on YouTube, I'm going to post some resources that will help you. So Leah, there will be a interactive ebook link. I'm going to post that. The very first technique, emotional processing, that's taught by my teacher, Lucia Renee, is the one that you're going to use to do merging, okay? That's the technique. Use that. Listen to that MP3 that's embedded in the interactive ebook and read about it. Use that. That's the thing that you'll want to use. That's the tool. Okay. So Sherry says, I went through 2 days of extreme sadness, and once again, I surrendered very deeply. Now, the matter of the the outcome was in a state of nothingness that has subsided at this point. Perfect. Perfect job. You welcomed it. You got to this peak point of sadness. You welcomed it so fully. You came into a state of emptiness, nothingness, which is actually oneness. Your field expanded, and now you're in this you came into a subsiding state. Then you can expect at some point, when your soul is ready, for the next challenge to show up. It's going to be a roller coaster ride. That's life. All right. Leah says, doubt creeps in when I start to feel better, and I barely notice it. I've been healing through Crohn's disease and go through cycles of flare-ups. I go within more during the flare-ups, but I feel like I'm doing all the work I can. Do you have any advice for doubting yourself, doubting the journey I'm on? Yeah. So here's a technique that I call erasing negative programs. Doubt is ego. It's the ego saying, Leah, you might not be on the right track, right? Doubt is ego. Ego says all kinds of crazy stuff to you. These are negative programs that we've learned. You've learned how to doubt yourself, my dear. You've learned how to doubt yourself. So bow to the doubt, bow to the ego. Say, thank you so much for trying to help me. Why does ego cause you to doubt? Because it's trying to help you survive in a very sick and crazy matrix system, isn't it? That's why. So we bow to it. Thanks for trying to help me. I require you to shut down now. I'm the soul in charge, and I have a different plan. My plan is to be an unconditional love for myself. Thank you. And then you keep doing that. Thank you so much for trying to help me. I require you to shut down now. I'm the soul in charge. I've got a different plan. Take a deep breath. You're going to find that you can do it real quick after a while. Thank you, shut down. I'm in charge. I have a different plan. Deep breath. Every negative thought that shows up, every doubt that shows up, it's ego trying to help you survive in a crazy sick system. That's okay. But we're in charge. You're the soul in charge, Leah, of the body and your mind. So take command of it now. And that's how you do it. And if you keep doing that with those negative programs, they will erase. You will stop feeling them. You will stop hearing them. Because of course your body and your brain do actually want to do what you've asked them to do. They belong to you, a soul, not vice versa, right? So try that, Leah, and see how that helps. So Melissa says, thank you for reminding me of my truth, my passion, and my mission here. I've been diligently facing my shadow and trauma for decades. It got so intense lately, I felt sucked in the undertow long enough to feel exhausted, and now I know that I can continue this. I am still all alone in intending support and community, and I have so much to share. That's so beautiful to hear, Melissa. I am sorry that you feel alone, and I'd like to invite you to come onto our online community on Slack. We do have to pay to have the online community, so it's a separate thing. And so we do our community calls live together once a month. But then there's this ongoing online community on Slack, which is kind of like Facebook, but not. It's obviously off Facebook. So it costs $13 a month to come and join us. If you need a scholarship, just email me and let me know, because I'd rather you be able to feel supported, Melissa, so you have some friends to talk to. A lot of us are on there, and we're all there every day talking and chatting and laughing and supporting each other and lamenting. And it's a great place to just be held. And so I do want you to feel connected. It's possible to feel connected. And then the other way to make sure that community is getting created, at least, is to go volunteer if you can. If you've got just even a little bit of time to volunteer somewhere, do that, because that selfless giving nurtures continued friendships that are based in selfless giving. Because if you're volunteering and you meet someone cool, it's because they're in the same mindset and energetic as you. And so that's going to be the exact perfect place to make friends and find connections and new community. So those are the two options that come to me my mind immediately. I'm sure there's many others. But hopefully that will help you. And I'm so proud for you. All this effort you've put in to continuing to merge with all these fears and the layers of dark and not being afraid to do that, facing the fear, not being afraid to face the fear, and keep that work up. You're doing so wonderfully. I'm so proud for you that this has continued on, no matter how alone you felt. I truly relate. I really do. Because when I moved here to Kentucky, it's been incredibly lonely here. And I have very, very few friends and no community to speak of, really. So I totally relate. I definitely get it. Being on Slack has helped a lot with that. So I don't feel lonely at all. Now I just hop on there and I can see all of these beautiful people who are all friends and they're my friends, and it's such a wonderful thing. So I hope that you'll join us. You can find that out more about the online community if you go to the Circle community on seerandscientist.com on my website, and you can see what we're doing there. And then if you need a scholarship, I'm never going to turn anyone away. So just email me, contact me, and we'll go from there, okay? So Melissa says, my only fear is that I won't complete my mission this time. I get it. And I'm awake and doomed many mornings that it's too late. And I try to be with my solar plexus. That great fear arises, not speaking the truth. How do I create and move this through every day? That is a clue, Melissa. It's a sign, right? When you have a fear that you're not going to be able to complete your mission, it's a part of that matrix system, those big, massive matrix programs, right, that really shut us down and say, oh, Elizabeth, you're not going to finish your mission. There isn't any finishing. There's no finishing the mission. What is the mission? The mission's the same. It's the same for all of us. It's the same for the ladybug on my ceiling as it is for me, as it is for my dog, or the blades of grass and the trees outside. The mission is the same, and it doesn't end. There is no ending. There's no finishing the mission. The mission is to discover what is love. That's the point of this universe. Thank you for trying and being interested in the mission. Thank you, Melissa, and all of you for wanting that. We do all want to feel like we were able to give back to the mission, but the doubt or the fear that you're not going to finish, that is false. That's false. It's negative programming. Bow to it. Require it to shift. Tell it who's in charge. Demand that it's replaced with a sense of knowing that every single moment your mission is fulfilled by simply existing. Your existence is the fulfillment. Every moment is the fulfillment of your mission. Okay? I hope that helps. This universe is so fascinating, and we couldn't really discover what is love without all this doubt and fear, and then facing it, and then finding, of course, more love on the other side every time, right? So Sherry says, rather than shut my ego down, I welcome my ego with such love until my ego knows it's safe and integrates. Yes. And sometimes it's very good to be firm with our ego. All right, ego, you can't keep pushing that doubt into my mind anymore. I have things to do. All right, ego. I've got my eyes on you. Ego is a child that doesn't want to not exist. That's ego's greatest fear, is non-existence. And of course, the ego is there for us to learn from. There's no reason for us to be afraid of ego or angry with ego. We can be firm with ego and we can be loving with ego. And as we learn how to do that with our ego, we do it with other people, other humans and their egos too. It's very similar. If we can cultivate a compassionate, unconditionally loving relationship with ego as we continue to help it dissolve into oneness, then we're going to see that happen in our personal human relationships too. And of course, our collective cultures and consciousness and community. All right, so Maria's asking a nice question. How do you know when you have healed both masculine and feminine parts of one? And so it's an ongoing effort. Once we might heal it in ourselves, which might be, any pain that we've experienced from either masculine or feminine, being able to step into a state of welcoming that into unconditional love. And notice I didn't use the word forgiveness, right? Because sometimes we can forgive and sometimes we can't. And that's okay. But unconditional love can always exist no matter what. That's far beyond forgiveness. It's far more powerful than even forgiveness is unconditional love. It says anything you do or say will not stop this love from existing and from being available to you, right? It doesn't mean we have to keep talking to people or that we forget about the hurt. It doesn't mean we have to be people's friends either. That's a big difference, right? And so remember, the unconditional love is the roof or the foundation or whatever feels best for you. So for both men and women, for us to hold and maintain all how the men and the women in our lives have hurt us, all that we know of the patriarchy and how it's hurt men and women, all that we know of the suffering that's in front of us and that we've experienced in these lifetimes, when we can bring that into equanimity within ourselves and all of that love that's available, the compassion that's available, it shifts all of that within the self, brings you into a higher state of oneness, and then you'll start to see challenges and relationships in front of you outside the self that need that oneness from you. So let me give you like a personal example here. At one point, my husband and I, we were in a very dark place and we weren't so sure it was going to work. And I realized I have to walk my talk. I've been talking about unconditional love all day long, but here's my chance. Here's my chance to cultivate it beyond myself. I had healed the masculine feminine within me already. So it was a chance to cultivate that same love outside myself with my husband. So I held him. I held him in my field. And I said, there's nothing you could do or say that would stop me from loving you. Use this to transform. Use this light to transform. What he discovered was that even though I had forgiven him and had completely held him in pure, unconditional love and compassion, he found in himself that he had not forgiven himself, that he had not addressed the worthlessness in himself. And once he could address that, he was able to completely transform in this love. He was able to turn into the man that he'd always wanted to be. A man that was so fully loved just as he is, without condition. A man that was so fully loved that he could move into a place of being that he'd only ever wished for. Excuse me. I'll take a drink of my gigantic tea here real quick. So that's the next step. You'll know that you've healed it within yourself when the next step is in front of you outside the self, right? And you see then, oh, I can practice this with the people around me. That's when it gets juicy, right? And so By holding my husband in all that love, now he could transform, he could forgive himself, he could heal the masculine and feminine within. And he has. And now our marriage is spectacular. And we keep doing this together now, outside of ourselves, working the unconditional love out to the people around us, to our family members, to our friends, to our community. Okay? And that's what it looks like. That's how you know, my friend. Just keep it up. You're on the right track. So Moria asks, the energies that I felt during solstice were very heavy, dense, and seemed unreal. As I watched the gathering of different folks around our bonfire celebration and the attempts to recreate an old, outdated systems, all I saw was the falling away of energies. This is indicative of what I experience on a daily basis. How do we know what's real anymore when all these systems are falling away, unreal illusions and plays on the stage of the universe? I hear you, Moria. Love is real. Love is your anchor. Love is your life raft through the squalls and the storms, through the ups and downs, through the undertows and the dismantling of these systems. Love is our lifeline. Love. If you can love the dismantling, love the heaviness, love the discomfort, love the real and the unreal. How do we know what's real? We don't. We don't know what's real. Humans know very little. We have no idea what's real. All I know from a soul level is that love is real, that this universe is here for us to continue to help source discover love. That's what's real. That's the only thing that you need to know that is real. The rest of it, we don't know much about it. We think we do. We really don't. And it's continuing to surprise us and unfold in miraculous ways. And so as we spiral through all of the real and the unreal, the one thing you can count on is love. That's it. It's going to be that. Hang on to that. If you can learn to fall in love with the chaos, then the chaos has no power over you. If you can learn to fall in love with the heaviness somehow by welcoming it, it will have no more power over you. If we learn to fall in love with the fear that shows up in front of us, it doesn't have power over us anymore. That's what we're here to do. And we keep unveiling new energetics of love by doing that. And it's not going into all these nice, beautiful, loving situations and all the love and light and all that beautiful stuff. It's not going that direction that's going to heal humanity. It's going to be all of us, the light workers and the light teachers and the mystics and all of us, all of you. It's going to be all of us facing the dark and saying, can I love that layer of dark? Can I love that layer? Can I love that layer? And you keep going. That's how we bring balance and healing. And that's how we'll continue to discover what is real. What's an illusion and what is real? What else is real? Everything is one. Source is us, learning through us about love through relationship. And that is the whole point of the universe. It always remains the same. You can trust that. Use that as your anchor. I hope that helps. Sherry says, I don't want to see all that you see, Elizabeth. However, I do feel that I have gone through so much of what you describe without the seeing, if that makes sense. Could you describe how an empath differs than a seer in this regard? I'm so proud for you. I think this is wonderful. And many wonderful empaths out there who don't necessarily have their psychic abilities full blown to seer level. And honestly, trying to use my heart space to feel stuff has been really hard. And I empathize with you empaths because I don't know how you do it. I really don't. It sucks. I'd rather continue to see all the wildness that I see without feeling it, but that is not the path. I must have full body discernment to be able to be a good teacher for you, for myself, for my children. I need to feel energy to be able to see it. So with the seeing part, I don't want anybody to put that on a pedestal. It is not the best gift to have at all, because you can be deceived by what you see. I have been deceived so many times by what I've seen. And if you aren't feeling the energy behind it and trusting your divine knowing, then you're not going to get anywhere. I've almost died multiple times because I was not using my full body discernment. So seeing's cool and all, but you need to also feel and know. You can't just do seeing. Okay? You can't. I've already tried. It doesn't work. You must have full body discernment. Eventually, Sherry, as you continue to work on your trauma, you'll see more. You'll see more, and you'll feel more, and you'll know more. So instead of saying like comparing empaths to seers, I'd rather say we're all on the same path, that we're all meant to have full body discernment. Seeing, feeling, and knowing is our right. It's our capability of our body. So there's no reason to compare, really. Some folks have wide open hearts, and some folks have wide open third eyes, and some have both. And the thing is we all need all three to get by, to get through to the next levels of consciousness. If you're healing trauma, then you're going to be able to get access to those three abilities, seeing, feeling, and knowing, more easily. So if you want to see more, work on your trauma. If you want to feel more, know more, work on your trauma. If you want to remember more from your soul history, work on your trauma. That's the number one way you get access to all dimensions, to all the attributes of your DNA and your soul. That's the number one main way of doing it. So absolutely. Then of course, so Joe is saying, it sucks to be both a seer and an empath. Totally feel ya. Having my heart wide open at the moment is very challenging. So, I can now feel what the readings I'm doing, now not just seeing, but I'm feeling them. It's incredibly intense. And here's a good trick for all of you who can do both, or anybody really. It's a special gift that I learned from the water dragons in Crestone, Colorado last June, when I did my first in-person retreat there. And I was having trouble because my heart was wide open and I was very sensitive, and my third eye and my heart were not syncing up, right? So I was feeling all this stuff while I'm seeing, and it felt like torture. So I'm sitting in front of this river called the Zapata Falls, the Zapata River. And I'm sitting in front of this white water, this beautiful water, and this dragon comes out of the water. And it says, "Elizabeth, I want to help you with your third eye and your heart." I said, "Oh, thank you," because I'm miserable. And the dragon says, "Imagine the white noise of the water like a circle cycling in front of you, and let that white water and white noise fill the third eye with the white energy and fill the heart with the white noise frequency, and you'll sync up your third eye and your heart and your gut with that same sound." So he gave me a visual and he gave me a sound. He gave me the white noise color of white, as well as the circle cycling with the breath. And so in front of me, I was imagining this circle, and the white noise, white water was moving around and around with my breath, syncing up my third eye, my heart, and my gut, all into the same white noise frequency. And it was divine. It was divine. It was so peaceful. So play with that. I hope that helps. If you need help, just listen to the sound of running water, even like your sink, seriously. Or I'll play like running water on my phone or something like that, and I'll do that. And it helps so much to sync everything up and to calm your third eye, your heart, and your gut mind down so it can be all on the same wavelength, and then you suffer less. So I hope that helps. Very good. Yeah, no, it's not easy. Listen, I want to speak to you empaths here. And so empaths, you have a very special job. The job is not necessarily to identify all the things that you're feeling. Stop trying to identify them. That's more like my job. Your job is to let it move through, because the empath's field is so large. It's like a big hurricane picking junk up off the planet. Your job's simply to let it move through. If you try to identify stuff, it's going to back up in your field, and you're going to feel smothered by it. So do a heart command with me now, and to shift this junk out of the field. And then from now on, if you feel something come through, 99% of it's not yours. You just say, I give you permission to leave. Give you permission to use my field, up, down, or out, wherever you got to go. There's some joy, there's some despair, whatever it is. Everybody's welcome to go. That's your job. You're cleaning up the energetics of the planet by letting that field pick everything up. So don't try to identify it anymore. So to clean up the field quite quickly, we can say, dear heart, dear heart, please shift all the dense or dark energy, any emotions or trauma, especially any energies that are not mine, out of my whole body and field now. And then take a big deep breath. Good, and now we'll replace it. So we'll say, dear heart, fill my whole body and field with pure source light now. And take a big deep breath. Perfect. Good. So we replace it with light so that there's no vacuum for anything weird to come back in, right? If you do that consistently, and then don't try to identify stuff anymore, just give it permission to leave, you'll start to feel a lot more grounded and peaceful. I hope that will help you. Very good. All right, so Enar is asking, if 10D is coming online, does that mean 11 and 12 are around the corner? Since I hear the dimensions along with the DNA comes in threes. I don't know, because from what I've learned, 7, 8, and 9 weren't even supposed to come online yet. So I have no clue what's going to happen, Enar. That's the fun part. We get to create that together in the moment. So, hey, I'm all for creating and nurturing 10, 11, 12 for sure. And so that's what's coming. 10 is coming. 9 is online. So we'll see. I have no idea. That's the fun part, right? Okay, so someone asked, what if you don't remember your trauma? Don't worry about that. In general, we can totally identify general trauma, grief, anger, sadness, despair, emotions, right? Emotions give us a clue. Triggers and reactions give us a clue. If you have a trigger or a reaction, you probably have trauma around that thing. You might not remember the trauma. That doesn't matter. You know what it feels like with the trigger or reaction. Just go with that. And then you'll know, okay, I got to work with this anger thing. I got to work with this sadness thing. And even better, you could do a lineage clearing and clean up all of your DNA from sadness, all of your DNA from anger that came from 500,000 years of other people's stuff, right? So on the YouTube replay, I'm going to put underneath there a technique to do that, a lineage clearing technique. So you can sit and start naming stuff off. And, you know, you can say, well, my dad had a drinking problem. Okay, addiction and alcoholism. I want that cleaned up. Maybe you don't, but your dad did. Well, that's going to be in your epigenetics, right? So it's going to be that mindset. You don't need to know or remember every single trauma. I think that's impossible. for all of us to remember all of that, because the brain erases stuff all the time. It's not the seat of good memory. It's the heart that's the seat of your memory, Martine. And so just trust that your triggers, your reactions, and generally noticing whatever happened in your family, even if it was a step family or adopted family, include them too in the lineage clearing. And that's how you can work from there. Very good. All right, so Moria is asking, I'm interested in the shifts coming, and the dates most prevalently coming to me are 2027 and 2032. I have nothing solid for those dates, but wondering what you see. So here's what's very important around future seeing. I'm going to be firm on this. It is a bad psychic who will tell you the future. You'll never hear me talk about the future ever, because there's billions of timelines and they're all true. A good psychic is not going to pick one of those timelines and say, well, that's what I see happening. I predict this. And this is coming from a scientist who specialized in predictive models. Do not trust people who will give you predictions. That is false. It's more important for us to stay present and keep deciding every single moment what we want for the future of ourselves and mankind. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Moria asks, how do we teach others about honoring the divine feminine and divine masculine and remove the separation factor so true honoring and union can occur? Again, that one I don't know. All I know is that from my experience, unconditional love is what created that union. My willingness, 100%, to be in a state of unconditional love and universal compassion and maintain it constantly, is how I taught the people around me in my immediate family to function in union like that and to heal. So that's one step. But the fact is Moria and all of you, we together are the ones who are going to write that book. It's not been written already. Those steps, how do we teach others? How do we recreate our cultures with these ideas to create union? We have to decide that together. We've got work to do. Let's do it together. We're going to do it together in June. We're going to do it together before that, obviously. Don't have to wait 6 months, but we can do this together. So I'm teaching my monthly class on January 5th. How about in February, we get together and we start to really systematically look at that. And this means that your input will be incredibly valuable. You as a woman or a man will be incredibly valuable. Your perspective is incredibly important on how we're going to do that, how we're going to teach others. There's a lot of people out there doing some of this work. And one guy's name is John Wineland. I love this guy. I'm going to try to interview him on my New Earth Conversations show. But man, he's great. He's really working with the masculine and helping them heal. And so he's the kind of person, we could gather together regularly and say, all right, here we are, men and women. We're still trying to come up with ways that we can create this union and how we can heal and what are the steps and what are the practical pieces and what are the spiritual pieces and the esoteric and all of the above. We have to do this together. That's what we're here to do now. So there isn't a perfect answer for that because we're still discovering it. And it does start with love. So Enid is asking, what can you tell us about the thousands of satellites that are being sent up to space? How's this going to affect us and the light coming into the planet? Satellites don't necessarily affect light coming to the planet because photons are extremely flexible, but what it is doing is really screwing up basically the study of cosmology. So it's a problem for scientists who are trying to study the stars. And I don't know what the future will be around that. I think it's very clear at this point that it's a big problem. And so the scientific community, along with some of these big tech companies, are going to have to address this. And I don't know how that's going to unfold. But as for photons, don't worry about them. All qualities of light move through and will get to exactly where they need to go. So Rochelle's asking, I've been clearing my DNA, and one of the codes that I was not a good person and that my ego is just so hurt about this came up. So I'm in Kentucky also. I think we are here for a purpose to hold space and spread light in the area. Yes, definitely. Kentucky needs it. What about the 5G effects on the field? So yes, Angela, that's right. It's John Wineland. You spelled it correct. Wineland, like wine and land. He's on the internet, all over YouTube. Fabulous guy, love him. As for 5G, it is a very troublesome frequency, and our continued efforts to stand our ground and be in biological sovereignty, because 5G can affect biology. We must be in biological sovereignty, in food sovereignty, and spiritual sovereignty. Sovereignty is going to be very important concept. So for now, I ask all of you to meditate on sovereignty as one of the ways that we can undo damage that might be caused from frequencies like that. And there's a lot of physical things that can help us out, like shungite, for example, absolutely made by nature to help us with these difficult frequencies. Shungite, and then of course, there's those cool pyramids. Probably you all know this, the name of them. Oregon, yeah, it's Oregon. Oregon really helps too. Surround yourself in that. Copper really helps. A lot of natural energies out there to help you, to buffer you, activating our water. Water has memory. Talk to the water. You say, dear T, please help me to not be affected by any kind of Wi-Fi frequencies at any level, including 5G. That is what I ask, please. Thank you. I love you. The water will listen to you. It's quite cool. So we have a lot more control over our biologics than it seems. Talk to your body. Keep talking to the body. Talk to your field. And merge with any fear around what happens to us. Merge with fear. Merge with the fear of death. Merge with the fears that come along with new tech. And so in the end, our sovereignty and our continued effort to recreate our cultures will have a dramatic effect in the physical. It's got to percolate. Remember, it's got to percolate to the physical, which will be a big, massive shift from the lifestyles we have at the moment, which are very toxic, right? So that's a good place to start. All right, so I'm going to get on my Q&A board, and we're running out of time a little bit, so I'm going to try to be as efficient as I can, because we still want to do a pillar of light too. So Joe's asking, when we have a quantum awakening, does that open us up for anything to come into our field? Kind of, yeah. I mean, I have a massive awakening. I can usually expect something new and weird is going to show up. And a lot of times, you know, we might consider those things dark, but at this point, I'm so used to it that I don't see things as evil anymore, or not even really dark. I just see them as dense. I don't see anything like that any longer. And so eventually, you know, we keep expanding, then new stuff shows up, the next challenge shows up, the next layer of dark shows up. Yes, you can expect that. And we don't always know what is there. So Marta's asking, as an empath, how can we keep our vibration high when we're constantly transmuting these lower 3D energies? I find myself having resistance to it, or my ego is like, why do I have to deal with all this crap? I get it. So listen, I'm going to post a interview that I did because I don't want to recreate it at the moment because the training's already there. It's on SoundCloud, and it's an hour-long talk I did about empaths and exactly how to do that, how to deal with all of this. Okay, Marta? And the fact is trust your soul. Trust your soul. You're going to, what's at the center of the hurricane? The eye of the storm. What do we know about the eye of the storm? It's very calm. So you're going to create that for yourself too. But the functionality of it, the details of it, the process of it, I already laid out in this talk. So I'll make sure that's in the replay information on the YouTube for this particular call, okay? And you can go to that on the YouTube channel, find this call, and you'll see all that information there for you to use, all right? So Carrie says, how do I stay safe and come out the other side when I merge? End this concept of safety and protection, okay? That's separating ourselves. Nothing can hurt your soul. Nothing can hurt your soul. No matter how much it hurts, it can't hurt your soul. You're always safe, even if you die. You are always safe. Don't separate yourself. And when you go into fully merge, you're not separating yourself or protecting yourself from anything. No, you must put down all those walls and become the fear, become the pain, become the despair. Feel it so much, so fully. You will find you will move through it and you expand to another level of light that you didn't have access before. It is not about protection and safety. That's us being separated from the law of destruction. It is the false limitation program around the fear of death. It is not real. Death is not a problem. Destruction helps creation. Without it, we do not have a universe. So don't worry about that. There's no worrying about protecting. It's only advancement. You ought to shift your question for yourself. What next level of advancement am I ready for? This is mysticism. No, it's not easy to hear that because we do want to feel safe, of course, but that fear of death rules humanity, and it is false because it separates the law of destruction from all the other laws when we should be celebrating it. And it's happening within us all the time. Everything that we consume is destroyed within us and recreated into more of Elizabeth or more of Christy or Carrie or Moria or Einar, right? So we have to end this separation from death, from destruction. And then you find, wow, nothing can hurt my soul. Stuff can mess around with my body, sure. But as long as I'm not afraid of death, as long as I merge with that fear and end its power over me, then I can keep merging and merging and merging with anything, and then keep advancing my soul into deeper and deeper oneness and love with the universe. As sovereign souls, we are always protected, simply in that our consciousness never dissolves, okay? That's all you need to know. Your consciousness will never dissolve. So important. And death really doesn't exist. It's simply the recycling of energy back into the beautiful laws of nature and the universe. So You said divine masculine has been online for some time now, but it seems the opposite to me, Christy says. It seems like they have more work to do. I say this due to the oppression of women, including the earth. Just because I said that divine masculine energy is online doesn't mean that it's been fully integrated. And the divine feminine has a lot of work too. You're right. The masculine has a lot of work. We all do. It's impossible to compare, though. It's like trying to compare, the amoeba the universe who's gonna absorb everybody to a different universe or whatever. It's comparing the two and saying, well, the masculine has more work to do than the feminine. That's not really true or fair, because it's going to be the individuals, the souls, who are going to be deciding all of this. So what creates culture? Individual people create culture by merging together. So if we're going to see cultural change and the end of oppression of women and the end of using our men as cannon fodder and the end of the patriarchy and the end of us comparing men and women any longer when they're so wonderfully equal in their own rights and so unique in their own rights, that's going to be a good start. So work on the inner self first, and then go from there. Women have been second-class citizens for ages and ages, but now women are being asked to step up in their power. So if you're in a feminine body, step into your power, reclaim your root power. You're the dreamer of the next level of existence. And men, open your hearts. Be willing to surrender to the divine love of Divine Mother. All of us ought to, men and women alike. And as you surrender, you're going to feel your heart open, and you'll be able to manifest the dreams of the feminine into material reality. This is the beauty of this cycle between men and women. The women dream and are allowing the Gaia concepts of harmony with nature to move through us. We teach the men hear us, the men manifest it physically into our 3D world and back and forth again. We keep nurturing one another along this path. And so to sit and compare and try to say, well, the divine masculine might be online, but it's not been well absorbed or whatever. These are just opinions that we have from our personal experiences. The opinion of the men who are trying to do whatever are going to be unique too. Each person's got their own traumas, and we've all been men and women in other lifetimes. So I think it's important to speak soul to soul at this point, and to not wound to wound, right? And not keeping comparing trauma. That's not going to get us anywhere. It has not got us anywhere. We've been doing this for about 50 years now, and it's not got us anywhere. What's going to get us somewhere is very different than that. Now, divine masculine energy is different than saying all masculine, okay? Divine feminine energy is different than saying all the feminine, all the women. It's very different. Divine feminine, divine masculine is sort of like saying, well, these are two parts of God, right? And that's what we're saying. So these two doorways are online, yes, they are, but we have to work on our parts here. If you came as a woman, you're here to work on the feminine part. If you came here as a man, you came to work on the masculine, and inside of us as souls, we came to work on both. And together we will open those doors together with equal effort, right? So right now, as a woman, what we can do to help the men to heal and to step up into their heart-centered power is to love them without condition, no matter what. And that's very hard to do. And for the men to surrender to that love That's also hard to do. No one said this was easy. We don't advance when it's easy. We advance when it's a challenge, and this is a big one, and it's massive for the whole universe. It will ripple to the edges of consciousness and the universe every step we take to heal together. So let me keep, I see some repeat questions here. I'm gonna move forward. So there's all these really great questions, y'all. I can't pick them all. So I'm gonna pick one more from the Q&A board, and I'm gonna see who's on YouTube and who might have questions there. And Laura's asking, could you talk about the difference between judgment and discernment? How to keep my visions for a better world while noticing destruction and suffering. You got to fall in love with destruction and suffering and understand what it's there for. It's there for deep learning. We don't take it away. We won't learn if we take that away. This was such a hard concept for me because for so long I wanted to save the world. I mean, I think I came out of the womb wanting to save the world. So my savior complex has been like massive and it's got me in loads of trouble. But I realized I can't take away people's experiences. Then they wouldn't learn, they wouldn't advance as souls. And their experiences include suffering. So I want to describe to you a very simple way to understand what is judgment and what is discernment and what is the difference. Judgment is discernment being run through ego. Ego is expectations, attachments, judgments, and resistance. So when we run our discernment through all that ego and all of our negative programming, it comes out as judgment. When we shift our trauma and our egoic structure out of the way, we have more pure discernment. It's a full body activity. That's the simple definition. And eventually I'd like to teach a class about that. So maybe that will be our topic for March, or February and March we'll do a little bit of discernment talk, because discernment is incredibly important. We can't really get far at all without discernment. So that's going to be a massive thing for everybody to have in their toolboxes, how to do full body discernment. And there is a process to that. Good. All right, so I'm going to have to skip over here to YouTube to see if we have any comments that or questions that need to be addressed. So the Blue Nomad has asked, do we still really need to experience in polarity? I'm so bored and tired of it. But then again, I'm tired of everything right now. My dear friend, Blue Nomad, merge with that. Merge with the boredom and the tiring. Merge with the frustration you have with polarities. What a fantastic thing to merge with so that it can be undone from your field and undone in the collective. That's what's in front of you right now. Merge with it. And then you'll find, well, it's polarities all the way down, and it's okay. And we can keep being done with every new polarity. To end a polarity, you find the middle ground. It's the middle way all the way down, isn't it? And so that's how we end our relationships with certain polarities. Then we discover another one and find the middle ground there, on and on. And sometimes we feel bored with it, so we merge with the boredom. Great Soul says, we are the ones that we have been waiting for. I agree. I just love that. Love it, love it. I think it's so true. I don't remember who said that the first time. It's pretty neat. So Karen is really afraid of or dealing with this waking up in the middle of the night being in deep fear that something's wrong, but you're not able to identify what it is. This is mysticism, to notice this, right? To notice there's this fear of something, that something's wrong and I don't know what it is in my field. Okay, I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to be with it. I'm not going to resist it. I'm going to welcome it. I'm going to merge with it and find out what's on the other side. You just put your attention on it, right? And then it's going to unfold more and more. That's what you got to do with that, Karen. That's why it's showing up for you right now, because this is an advanced task for you to take on, to merge with and allow fear to be in your attention, right? That's what you're going to be doing from here on out in the middle of the night. Very good. And so Daniel's asking about mastery. What is mastery? How do we know we've mastered something, such as a spiritual tool? I have a very clear answer for you. You don't. We don't know. I teach stuff that I haven't mastered. This is normal for spiritual teachers, and a good one will be honest about it, that I haven't mastered something. I'll just give you a personal example here. There's always more to learn about something. There's always farther to go. You might have reached enlightenment. There's still farther to go. There's things called supreme enlightenment. There's always more. Eventually, we leave our desire to have fully mastered something behind, and that is mastery. So at one point, I finished my master's degree stuff, and I got my thesis approved, and I finally got my master's degree, right? And I'm sitting there at lunch with my teachers from college, and I said, I need to apologize to you all for being so arrogant and thinking that I knew everything for 7 years. I've realized that I know nothing. I really don't. I don't know anything. And they all started laughing and smiling and patting me on the back, and they said, that's why we gave you your master's degree, because we realized that you finally figured that out. And you know what, Elizabeth? We don't know anything either. So that's how you know when you've released yourself from finding the end of a learning experience, when you've released yourself and freed yourself from finding a final piece to say, now I am a master, then you become a master by releasing yourself from mastery. Ironic, isn't it? So Erjan, he's asking, what does soul-to-soul talk look like? Is it creating a world that works for everyone, for example? Well, I think that's eventually what soul-to-soul talk can do, but really soul-to-soul, if I was to describe it as a very specific process, it would look like me noticing someone's trauma, noticing whatever's going on with the ego, personality, etc., but always being able to envision, and in my case, I'm so lucky I can see this, so it's physically I can see it. But to envision with your third eye, imagination is the gateway to the third eye, to envision that you're speaking as a soul in charge to the other person's soul. Just start with that. See how that changes the way you speak to someone. You'll feel the energy of your soul move through your heart more through your words than, say, if we were just speaking through ego and mental energies, then we would be speaking wound to wound, ego to ego, trauma to trauma. We speak from reaction then. We speak from the mental instead of from the soul, which feels like, physically feels like moving through the heart, moving up through the voice and speaking to the soul of the person. So this is another thing that we could do some training on. I'm getting all kinds of juicy ideas. Thank you. We should do some training on soul to soul talk and doing mirroring. Mirroring is a very specific kind of communication that I'd be happy to teach you. This will help with our work healing to divine feminine and divine masculine within ourselves and outside of ourselves. It'll help us to communicate better instead of wound to wound. It'll be more powerful. So I think that would be a great foundational thing for us to work on over this next year, is how to speak soul to soul. It makes a big difference in communication and with outcomes, of course. And it turns into a world that is safe for everyone then. And that's special. Okay, so here we are. Let's go ahead and let's do our pillar of light. I'm so sorry I wasn't able to answer all the questions this time. I really do try. Thank you for listening and being open and asking questions. I'm here for you, and I'm going to copy all the Q&A stuff. And so if I can glean from that, from your questions that I was able to answer or that I wasn't, I'll glean from it, and we'll keep building more and more content and videos and these sorts of things, both free and paid, so that we can keep digging through this stuff, because your questions are so important. And thank you so much for being patient. All right, so let's do this special pillar of light. So if you can all pull up Gibraltar in your mind, I want you to energetically see the city of Atlantis just beyond Gibraltar, under the water. There's the walls of the city. That's where we're going to build our pillar of light. So let's invite all of the Atlantean souls, all the Atlantean memories. The Atlanteans, they knew about the divine feminine and masculine. They had access to a lot of power. They also learned the hard way about the misuse of power, as you know. And so for them, this is a special time, a special effort that we can include all of those souls and all those memories. Some of them are your memories, to the table. And so let's gather together in this big circle around the ruins of Atlantis, this massive, beautiful city underwater right now. And we're going to stand on top of the water. And Gibraltar will be behind us, or in some cases, you'll be facing it, and depending on where you are in the circle, whatever's comfortable. So as we all imagine, we've got almost 200 people together today. So here's our chance to be together, and we're going to make this pillar of light that will transmit our intentions out to the rest of the planet to serve the collective and the whole of the earth and Gaia herself over the next year. So we will build our pillar by projecting different qualities of light through the gut, the heart, and the third eye. And that will create our spiritual pillar. We're going to project it in the center. And this pillar is an actual spiritual object, and you can come back to it if you like in meditation. There's lots of pillars scattered all over the world that I've helped build and facilitate building over many, many years. And so this one's going to be another additional beautiful pillar that will help us and support us. So your intentions are very important. And if you're listening to the replay, go ahead and add your intentions along with it, because you can do that anytime. It doesn't matter. It could be a year from now. You can still add to a pillar of light. All right, so get grounded together here. So from the root, I'm being shown that in order to continue to help heal the divine masculine and feminine and all the men and women on this planet and all of the vulnerable and the earth and all of her children, plants and animals, and all of our galactic family here joining us, and all the interdimensional families joining us, to help us heal, we are going to be asked to transmit power, pure power, through our gut mind to the foundation of our pillar. So I want you to feel that word power in your root and in your gut. We're going to pull up all that energy, all that powerful energy. Now, with a deep breath, let's transmit it to the center of our group as the foundation of our pillar of light. Power. Wow. So all this power came from everyone and to the center, and then it created this beautiful sort of sharp, lovely, very elegant looking, thin, pointy foundation that's quite large. It's very big and it's pointy and it's sharp looking. It's almost like the sword of discrimination. So the sword of discrimination in ancient tradition cuts through illusion. True power is light. And light cuts through all illusion. Light illuminates the flaws that need to be fixed and the beauty in things that we didn't notice before. Good. Now, from the heart space, let's pull up two qualities of light. We've got unconditional love and universal compassion in the heart space. So that's what we're going to project now. Pull up unconditional love and universal compassion in your heart. And let's project that with a breath to the center of our pillar now. Good, cool, very neat. Comes from everyone's hearts, beautiful colors, both of these energies, then spinning around and creating what looks like a yin yang at the center of our pillar. The yin yang. Much wisdom there. Compassion and love acting as a force of union, a force of union for all of us, for the feminine, for the masculine, for humanity and the earth. Now from the third eye, we're going to project, I'm tapping into it here. Focus. This is one of the ancient templates of wisdom. Focus. So focus, feel focus. Focus is very sharp. It's pure, right? Focus is like a laser. We need focus. We need to focus on what we're here to do. Merging with fear, healing trauma, healing the union between men and women, healing the union between humans and earth. We ask for focus. So let's project that feeling of focus, that frequency of focus from the third eye out to the top of our pillar together now with a deep breath. Wow. Okay, I never know what I'm going to see with these pillars of light. It's different every time. So focus came in and then it really lit up, right? Bright golden light. And it anchored itself down to the core of the earth and out all the way to the edge of the universe. Our pillar of light is moving from the core of the earth to the edge of the universe right now. It's massive. It just shot right out to the edge like a big bright beam of laser light and power and unconditional love and compassion and focus. Wow. Okay. I hope all of you can feel this. It's quite intense and very, very, very vivid and bright. And it's light. It's full of light. It's white light. It's gold light. And it's very pure. It's very pure. That really shows just what kind of caliber of souls are involved in creating this. Thank you. It's so, so pure. You didn't put any of your trauma into this. You didn't put any of your pain into this. You put these pure energies through yourself. You were willing, and we did it together. And we created it together without any issues between us. We did it together. This is a good example of what humans are capable of. And that light reaches to the edges of the universe. And perhaps perhaps even beyond. Good job, everybody. I was looking forward to this. I was wondering how it would be a little different after solstice, and I just see this ease, an ease to creating these pillars that normally wasn't there. There was a little bit more effort before this. And now, since we've passed that threshold, this was really easy. There's no struggle or resistance or doubt or anything. Everyone was right on it, and it didn't take very long. So I encourage you to work with your friends and do this together, friends and family. Do more pillars. Do pillars of light for your household. Do it with ease, do it with grace, do it with positive intent. Keep building pillars. They're like prayerful actions that remain in the fourth dimension and continue to transmit and transmute and support. So we're going to do one as we have every month. And you can do your own. You don't need anyone to guide you. You just need more than one person. So 2 or more people can create a spiritual object beyond themselves. This is a great action of selfless giving and union that we can do too. We could do this with our spouses or our friends or our children. We could do it in support with our animals, right? So we could do a lot more pillars, and I would love to hear about them. If you do one, tell me about it. I'd like to hear what you experienced when you try these out as a special gift you can give as a selfless gift to our communities and our planet. How lovely. So the service that this particular pillar of light is giving is, of course, power, which is light, compassion and love, focus, for the next year and for our continued healing. It doesn't necessarily directly serve Gibraltar or the ancient ruins of Atlantis. We just picked that as a power spot. And now we know Atlantis is there. It's a quite special spot, and you're welcome to build more pillars there. It helps the whole planet and all of humanity. But it's a special, powerful spot. There's a reason why the Atlanteans picked to build their city there. And so that's why we built it there. Very good. All right, I'm so proud to be your friend. Thank you for being with me today. I just look forward to this every single month, and I think about it a lot. What am I going to talk about? I really want to share what I've been experiencing so that you too can benefit from it and use it to your advantage. And I love to receive the questions to help you along on this path, to make clear this path. And we're in this together, arm in arm. We are a circle. Each of you are equal. And in our inner equanimity, we can meet soul to soul and do this special work, and we'll never stop. We'll keep doing it. And I can't wait. I can't wait till next month when we speak again. And so just expect to see those emails. Usually it's towards the end of the month that I have these circle calls. And if you'd like to join our online community on Slack, that's a different thing, but I invite you to come join us. It's $13 a month, or if you need a scholarship, let me know. Let's get together and keep talking. Let's keep connecting. We are really in this deep love. We're in the unknown, like Nikki says. We are in a love affair with the unknown. We're navigating the unknown together. No one's been here before, just us. Namaste. I love you so much. Thank you for being with me today, and bless you, bless you, bless you. I'm so proud for you, for being here, for being willing. I feel you, I hear you, and I love you. Thank you. Thank you for being you. Namaste, my friends.